Talk a lot in the show about being part of communities that support authentic living in relationship with the earth. But what happens when we're a part of a community that no longer serves that goal, or that rejects us, that refuses to acknowledge our authenticity and our values? What do we do when we no longer feel that we belong to a group because of those differences? It can feel really daunting to look at these questions, but so many people in the world are wrestling with them right now. People are yearning and searching for connection with others around shared beliefs and values. And in this week's episode, we sit down with a group that has gone through this process of leaving a community that rejected them and building something new with other like-minded people. If you're in a similar situation and want to see an example of how community can support authenticity and connection based around communication, ritual, and natural rhythms, this episode is for you. Well, Orlene, Jon, welcome to the Fertile Dark.
Thank you.
Thank you. So glad to have you here. One of the areas that we're exploring just with the podcast is around the relationship between authenticity and soul-centric community, right? Like community that embraces the authenticity of each member in a way that's also in right relationship with the earth itself. And my understanding of the School of Quintessence as a community is that it really aligns well with those types of things. And so I thought it'd be really helpful, insightful to just explore that together as the two of you are some of the founding members of SOQ. And so I thought it would be nice even just to start by exploring how SOQ came to be. How did we get from zero to here? And then kind of go from there.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well, it's funny to say we're like one of the founding people and stuff, because that's wild in that it all kind of started from, we just wanted our students to stay with their teacher through the model. And so it was like, great, let's launch a micro school with one class. Easy peasy, but not really easy peasy. There's a lot more to it. And that the success of this class just made it possible and inviting for other teachers who wanted to be a school along the same philosophies, the same beliefs, to come over and say, we want to be a part of this. We want to step away from, some of the things that are holding us back from being a match to this. And then in 1 year, we ended up, what did we have, 4 grades?
Yeah.
And to be a founder, it was like, I was just taking my kid to school. It was like, I just wanted to make sure he was with this solid, amazing teacher, and it's been a wild journey, and then just keeps going.
So I was the class parent or class rep, parent rep for the class that we're talking about. And so I was already involved in helping to organize field trips and things like that. And I think, when situations happen, we're faced with choices to, now what, right? Now what? Do we go this direction, just get another job somewhere? But I think because we had built such, I don't want to say deep, because I think they're deeper now, but let's say deep. So because we have built these deep connections and relationships with each other already as families, as parents, and our kids together in the class, we didn't want to go on separate paths. We felt strong in staying together. And so we just kind of explored, what could we do? What are some different ways that we could continue to be together and continue to support our children and their growth and development with this teacher, and what can we do? And so it kind of was its own creation that came out of that spirit.
Well, and there were some really amazing meetings. When we get together, we call ourselves the combined collective. We're coming together, we're having conversations about what's the vision, what's the experience we're out to have these students have while they're going through the schooling experience, And so I feel like I said experience a lot, but whatever. It was very intentional, not just on the level of like, okay, how do we just put this together logistically, but also around how's it going to be for everyone, for the community, for the parents, for the students, for the teacher, the specialties, all of it. And there was a lot of intentionality in there that was just absolutely amazing. It was, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think because we were kind of starting with a blank slate, but with an idea of, this Waldorf education and what is involved in all of that with like what Jon was saying with the specialties and the curriculum. We had an idea of what we wanted to do and ideas that we had wanted to do in the past, but were never able to come to fruition under that other model. And so we were kind of like, okay, we have a blank slate, and what is possible? What can we do? And let's do it all. And so that was the beginning that, we had a solid classroom teacher, and then how can we support this classroom? How many different field trips and experiences can we provide for this class and these kids? And everyone just brought their ideas to the table, and everyone brought their skills. Some parents taught handwork, some taught woodwork, and I taught circus. And so we all had our own skill sets, and we just relied on each other and called to each other to come in with our best foot forward and bring our own skills to this collective.
And I feel like this is a really different way of approaching being together because we're talking about an educational experience, but we're also talking about a community experience. Waldorf as a model, I guess my thought was Waldorf as an educational model is really community driven. But this also feels very different because my experience with Waldorf schools is that there is still this kind of traditional hierarchy that exists, but just a little adjusted. Where what you're describing doesn't feel that way at all. It feels like there's this more of like a circular experience of like the round where everybody comes together in support of each other. And I'm really curious how you came to that model versus a traditional like administrator at the top and then the teacher and then the parent support, but as like more of like a go-between, and parents are kind of in one space, teacher in one space, and then administration in another space. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think because we had all experienced not a great situation with that hierarchical situation, and because we were coming together as equals, as partners already, with no one above the other person, I think it naturally lent itself to us just coming together and how can we all as a group work together. It was never like, okay, I don't know, for some reason there was never this idea that we need to have someone in charge. And it was like, let's do this initiative and how can we all help each other?
Yeah, I think definitely the previous experience helped shape that. And what really stood out is, to me, it felt like it was built from the students up. The teachers are the connection to the students, where the parents were connected to our individual, student, child, but as a whole, as a class. And one of the things is when we stepped from just the first class into like, okay, now we've got multiple classes, things like that. We actually did a little bit of like reading into the Rudolf Steiner is the one who I believe started the whole Waldorf thing and stuff, right? And he had some writings about structures for schools. And it wasn't just one set. It wasn't, here's a model that, works for some, here's a model that works for others and things like that. And I feel like what really stood out for me personally is that like each class is its own organism inside of something even bigger. And like the school is its own, but the teacher is the one who is the most connected to where is that at, what's going on with it and things like that. So when we worked together to kind of put this a structure that we have together, it was from that basis of like, hey, we're all going to get input. And ultimately, like the teacher is the one who's there the most with this entire group. So they're going to get a little bit more say. Whereas in a traditional schooling model, it's like the teacher's going to basically fight for what they feel is in the best interest for these students. And the person they're fighting with is their bosses. It's the people higher up who are never really ever around and in those classrooms. And it's a shame that that's kind of the traditional model now of like, gosh, I hope we can make these things happen for the kids. And you've got people up here saying, no, 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 and here's why. And they're not truly connected to what's going on. So it's one of the beautiful things about like our collective is that, I'm more connected with the grades that my students in, and Orlene's more she's connected with a bunch because
well, I'm connected to the grades that my students are in too. Yeah, right. I just have more students.
That's exactly. So, but the neat thing is like she then gets a say, right, with each class, each teacher, and then those conversations happen, and then it happens as a collective, as a group for the school, and it's a completely different vibe, energy, everything to it, because it is very for the benefit of the people who are in the school. It's beautiful.
Yeah. How would you describe the vibe or the energy when you are in these like collective experiences?
Well, I feel like I always want it to feel like a round table, and we sit around a table. And I think initially I had run a lot of the meetings and was like, because I that's one of my skill sets, like a facilitator. And so I'd have an agenda with items from other people, and I would kind of lead the going through the agenda. But initially it wasn't like that. Initially we were just around a table at a cafe, and everyone's just kind of like, okay, maybe the teacher's saying, okay, we need to have this field trip or some kind of experience that's going to go with this block that I'm teaching. And then people just shout out their ideas, not over each other. They're just like taking turns nicely, but everyone coming with their ideas and coming together. And then it kind of evolved as we added more classes into this more formal structure where I was going through agenda items. And then it's come back now where we're around the table again. And I'm just saying, okay, everyone, let's have our updates. And what are your updates and what are your concerns? And we go around the table again, and everyone just, says what's going on for them. And I think that's great. I like it a lot better.
I like your answer.
Yeah, it feels really different.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm used to very much like the square rectangular style table where there's the person at the head, and they're in charge. It's not just that they run the meeting, that they are in charge. And everyone's kind of, I don't know, there's always a certain degree of subservience to the one at the head, right? Like you're very cautious in the way you express your ideas. I don't want to get shut down. I don't want to get made fun of. I don't want to, hurt people's feelings or any of those kinds of things. There's just a lot more of those kind of interpersonal political dynamics, where this feels much more open, inclusive, holistic in the way that it's being approached.
You'll see that actually in some of our meetings where someone new to the school will join some of the meetings and kind of start out that way where they're like, there's this expectation of like, well, can I really say what's there? Now we have a lot of powerful people show up who are very opinionated and stuff as well. But the great thing is that everyone gets heard, and everyone's like, okay, like it's essentially like almost like speak your piece, and nobody's going to hold it against you. We're all going to, we may not agree. We may not, if somebody says, this is what I think we should absolutely do, it may not end up being the thing that happens. But everyone walks away knowing that they were heard. They got to say what they felt was the best ideas or whatever the case. And then we all walk away, and then we're all just the same parents kind of going through. And I think that gives the parents a lot more confidence, and they're a lot more comfortable with the school and the environment they're in, because they know, like, they're being heard. And everywhere that we're moving towards or from is coming from that space of, you know, community. It's the philosophies behind what this can be, which is beautiful. I mean, it's fun. And when you first asked that question, I was like, oh, because we recently had a meeting where it was like, when you bring up finances and things like that, a lot of people just like, oh, and I, in some cases, I'm the guy who's talking the finances, and I'm like, oh man, like, I'm the bummer of the meeting. I'm like, all right, well, we've got, like, here's where we're at on this class, or here's what's going on here, and you know, and this is just the reality, and let's look at the gap, and and I feel like the energy shift, because it's such a creative group. It's such a, but that's not so much the creative, that's the tangible, the real, that's the business side of it. And a lot of the parents and everyone who shows up, we want to be there for the, what's a cool, you know, field trip, or what do we need to do this, and hey, yeah, maybe so-and-so's truck could, you know, those kinds of things. When you first asked, I was like, oh man, the energy of the meetings. I'm like, yeah, it depends on the meeting.
Well, I am curious though, like, I mean, you mentioned bringing new people in, and like where people are trying to acclimate to this different environment, like this different approach to being together in an administrative experience. I mean, is what I'm hearing. How do you handle that? Like, how do you help somebody come into the collective, and how do you structure these meetings in a way where it promotes a sense of safety and openness?
Well,
That's all, Orlene.
we had someone recently want to not necessarily join the collective, but attend our meetings just to see what's going on, what it's about. And we have open meetings, and I guess not everyone might know that they could just come. But so we had this parent come in and, you know, kind of want to observe. But right away, you know, we were doing that circle format. And, you know, when it came to her turn, she just spoke. And I think that gives an opportunity to new people, to people who might not always want to say their opinion or not feel comfortable saying their opinion. Just say, okay, it's my turn now. Like, I'm just going to say my update and or what's going on for me, and what my thoughts are, issues are. And so because of that structure, and she actually met with us here in the garden that one time, or her first time, and we were just going around the circle, and she just spoke when it was her turn.
Yeah.
There wasn't much to it.
Yeah.
I guess I wonder if there are things that you notice, like ways that people support each other in those moments of sharing and really like vulnerability in the sharing.
I'd say, yeah, there's, because where someone's coming from, it might, whatever it's speaking to, if there's something there for someone else to chime in or put in, the structure's open for that. And so I would say yes. There's definitely an opportunity where during these meetings where someone shows up and they say, hey, well, here's my concern. And others might say, you know, I was worried about that at first too. And the neat thing is blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, here's something that we're doing. Or that's a great point. Let's look for opportunities to fill in the blank. And it's just like, you know, because they're like, that's what they want to hear. And it's not being said because that's what they want to hear. It's being said because I used the word authentic earlier, and it's because it's authentic to the people that are there. Mm-hmm. And just like, oh, wow, that is something we hadn't thought of. Let's look at that. And we'll, you know, at the next meeting, let's come together. And it's really beautiful. Like I say beautiful a lot too, but it's neat how in these meetings, having all these different opinions and ideas, that's how we continue to evolve and shift. Because if it's always the same people and they're always making the decisions, they've just got that one track, the way they think, the way they've done it and things like that. But the more others that are involved and brought in, and some stay for a little while, and we've had some that have come into the collective meetings and contributed, and then all of a sudden they just kind of faded in the background because life, not everyone can be at all the meetings. I'm not at all the meetings, it's like, and we get that. And it doesn't affect the movement of the school and what's going on. So,
I mean, it makes me wonder a little bit, because I feel like when I hear this, like there is these opportunities where people disagree. Like we don't all see eye to eye on everything. And while I hear that there's a lot of opportunity for discussion, I am curious about the times when things maybe boil over a little bit and we actually have some real conflict that's happening between people in the group. Like what's your approach to be able to navigate that together? Like as a collective, like when you have real conflict, like people's feelings are hurt, people are angry or upset about something. How do you deal with it?
Well, I think we've had some of that in the past, and the way that I've personally approached it and then suggested to the collective that we approach it is just with more conversation, really, more communication and best ways to do that. We had like a conflict resolution team working on a model or different ways at one point, and then we ended up calling it communication circle. And I think we actually went through a couple different communication circles in some of the smaller groups that had issues going on. I think they were helpful, but then you still have to continue to have conversations beyond that. And I think through that method or some kind of method where the conversation is allowed to be open and allowed to continue, I mean, that's the most important thing, that things aren't shut down. Because when they're shut down or like closed off, and they fester, and we just want them to breathe. And like, it might not be resolved right away. It might take time. People might take time. It's just like, how can we give people space, give people time, but also continue the conversation, continue those communication avenues.
I think that's really like one of the biggest things, right? Is that being able to actually talk to each other instead of shutting down, going away, getting our group of people that think and feel the same way, that we know will support us in our anger and our frustration. And just saying like, oh my gosh, can you believe that this person said or did? And then we kind of like fire ourselves up, and then we create division, and we like harbor a lot of those difficult feelings inside of us. And now the repair becomes much more difficult. I guess I'm really curious, because I haven't ever seen one of these communication circles. Like I know the way that I've handled similar things, but I'm curious, when you have a communication circle, like what does that experience look like and feel like?
Well, we had one, it feels like fairly recently. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was a while back, but we had one instance where a parent, teaching staff, there was a disagreement, possibly some misunderstandings. And so it's almost like having a moderator, right? Having some other people from the community there. And their role is to be a support for the communication, such that each party gets heard. And it's almost, in some cases, it feels like translating, because it's, yes, she has said this 3 times the exact same way, and this other person isn't getting it because it's being said the exact same way. And then to have someone, and I think Orlene and I both have been on the one I'm thinking of, and being able to just say, hey, well, it sounds like what her concern is this. And she's like, yes, like, duh, like kind of a yes. Like I said, strong personalities. And the other person's, oh, I understand. Okay, so the concern's that. The reality, though, is this. We're not going to be, so it may not be like, okay, well, you have that concern, then we're going to do it. No, that's not, the solution wasn't to change what happened. But now the person who, was most upset is able to walk away going, okay, I was heard. Yet I didn't get the result I wanted, but they get what I'm saying. And then the staff's like, okay, I get the concern and what's going on. And we've had other instances where it's, us coming together as a community because we're like, okay, we feel like there's a breakdown in the system. And the same thing, by having the communication circle, you've got those other ways of looking at it or hearing it that we can then communicate it such that maybe it's just not landing with the verbiage being used, and then it's said just slightly different as it land completely. And then, and it's like light bulbs. And so it's a really cool process when you watch and witness it happening as people are getting it and they're clicking and, oh, well, what about this? What if going forward we try that? And now everyone's collaborating on how to move forward, and they're doing it together versus that, in the parking lot, rig'em rag'em row, like you said. Yeah. And that even happens, still with our school times where there's like a little bit of and then some parking lot talk. And that's when it's like, oh, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's set something up. And then it's like, oh, yeah,
I mean, it sounds really similar to what I do in couples therapy, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
We teach active listening skills where you validate, reflect, and ask clarifying questions. And that's really all it is. It's like, A, whatever you're experiencing is what you're experiencing, and therefore it's valid. B, can I make sure that you know that I understand you? Like, I'm just going to reflect back what I am getting. I'm going to run it through my system and give it back to you and say, like, am I tracking right? Is this really what you're saying? And you get a chance to correct me and say, actually, no, it's not that at all. It's this thing instead. But because of the reflection, it works. And then we get to ask some questions about that. Like, oh, well, wait. Help me understand this and help me understand this. And what do you mean by this?
And I think having the moderator like you and the couples therapy or either of us like in another like communication circle situation that we're the ones having the conversation, but the other person is witnessing. The other person is there also listening. And then the moderator, like Jon was saying, can be the interpreter. And so there's not like the person that's already hurt feeling like they have to hold space for the other person and maybe not feel heard. And so it's an opportunity for everyone to feel heard. And then I was going to say in another one that I was in and moderating, it was just that there was a misunderstanding. I mean, one person had an idea of like, oh, I thought you were doing this because you thought this about me or whatever. And it was, that's that person's reality because that's what they were feeling and experiencing, but that's not what the person was intending at all. And so it's really being able to clear the air. And then it was same on the other side. I thought you thought because, well, and so, but having that space for that conversation and having it be okay for the people to talk and say what they have been feeling or thinking, so important.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm just thinking about right now, even as we explore this idea a little bit, is sometimes being in that moderator seat, there's like a lot that you hold. It can feel like, it can just feel like there's a heaviness to that or like a difficulty to that. And so I'm curious, when you're navigating conflict as the person and like the moderator, how do you discharge some of that energy? Like, how do you deal with that?
That's a great point, because like heading into one of those conversations or meetings, I personally have to like clear myself and just get that it's not me, has nothing to do with me. Any of the emotions, any of the stuff that's happening is what's happening over there for that person. And then that way I'm coming from truly a space of curiosity and so that I don't carry it out with me as well. Like, because there can be some of that energy and things like that that show up, and then you like physically you're like, oh my gosh, like I need to go shake this off, go for a walk or something afterwards. And so for me, it's almost like a process. Like it's creating like somebody once called it like a pass not, almost like a barrier where it's like, you can hear the messages, you can hear the underlying the communication they're trying to make without taking on any of the energy, any of the emotion of it, any of that. And it helps being outside of it. I would imagine it would be tougher to be a moderator if it was like, this is directly, I'm part of it. And that's, I think, a big part of when you're in it, you talk about the couples, when they're the ones in it, sometimes it's hard to be like, I feel heard, or the communication, or, they're very in it. But having somebody who's outside of it, that's the biggest, and keeping that wall for me. So I think, just like my past knot.
Yeah.
Helpful. I think for me, I also am very aware of, not taking on those energies and that emotion. And I feel like I naturally do that also. So it's a little bit easier for someone that might have to like really focus and train that kind of thing. But also what I'm in this situation, I think for me and for everyone that's involved, I feel like we just have to remember to breathe, because breathing allows a few things. Like it allows time, after something's said, for it to sink in, for it to be said. And it allows any kind of energy that we're all holding to be released. And breathing as a group kind of brings us together as well. And so in that breath, in that pause, it gives the statement that was said a moment to be there. And so it's kind of like honoring it. And then you repeat it back. And then it's validating it even more. And we're all able as a group to acknowledge it and take it in with our breath. And I think it's just, for me, like giving space. Like we talk about holding space for people, but it's actually giving space to the moment with those pauses.
Yeah. Which is so important, I think, especially because as soon as you introduce tension into the body, like it changes the breath. We breathe shallower, right? We breathe in a more constricted way, and it does decrease the capacity for space internally, externally, like in that relational field. You got to be like really in your body, and breath helps you do it. So I guess my question here is, so we're talking about like interpersonal conflict, which is, I feel like, really important, especially with a lot of the social dynamics we deal with, just learning that A, that's possible, B, a model for how to do that. But I think even beyond the conflict piece is that there is a lot of grief and loss that is just in the world right now. It's just really hard for a lot of people. And so many people I talk to, they struggle to know, how do I really work with grief with other people? And I'm aware that like some of SOQ's beginnings started with some grief, but I'm really curious, like as a collective, how do you work together with grief?
That's a great question. Like one of the things I will say, because it did start and come from some trauma at a past school and such, when we went into some of our meetings, we would actually speak to that. Or when there's a specific conflict that came up at one point, and we knew multiple people involved were almost defaulting to a previous environment. And so in the meeting, when we were setting the intention and speaking to that, I feel like made a difference, mentioning that there is a chance some of these emotions and feelings that may be showing up could stem from a past environment. and that it might be worth checking in. And if that's where we're coming from, taking a moment and seeing if we can set those feelings aside and look at the issue that we're actually talking about, so that we're not carrying in and already I need to fight, and already this person's going to come at me in a very negative way, or things like that from the previous environment. And during that particular conflict resolution, I feel like we made some progress, but it wasn't necessarily like an overall healing. It was an awareness, and it was a start to the journey for some of those individuals to realize, I'm not there anymore. I'm not in that space. We had a teacher who came when she disagreed with some of the other staff. You could see there was like nervousness, and it was like, you disagree. That's all there is. There's nothing else to it. Nobody's in trouble. Nobody's going to berate you or any of those things. Like, there's a disagreement. Yeah. And so they were able to work through it and figure out next steps to move forward. And it was great seeing that movement for the individual, because she was able to then realize this really is an amazing safe space. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. I'm going to noodle on that a little more.
How do we handle grief?
Yeah.
I feel like it's the same, like the giving space thing, and allowing people to express their emotions, not just their words, but their emotions, and be able to release that. Because again, like holding on to any of that is not productive, and it's detrimental to what we're trying to do in building connections. And it leaves people, whether they're doing it themselves or, in reaction to other people, but that it pulls them away from this cohesive unit that we're attempting to support and create. And so it's necessary for people to have a space to express their grief, and as a community, as our collective, like to be able to help them move through that. And just the first step is having the space for them to be able to express it, and then offering support, however that is for any one individual other person, in their own way.
Yeah, I was thinking tissues.
Yeah.
Because when we have these meetings and such, and Orlene does such a great job of like having, the opportunity for you to share what's there for you, what's going on. And that's actually one of the best moments for some of these parents. We've had brand new parents when they've joined, just from the safe space that the meeting has created, that by the end of the meeting, they may open up and just share. This is where we're coming from. This was the environment. This was my concerns for my child. I'm so grateful to be in this environment for this group. And I hadn't really realized that that's one of the ways that we help people move through their grief, is when they're able to be in this safe space that is around such a charged and like emotional topic of like your kids' education and the environment, and that they're going to be in, and what about me as a parent, like what's that going to be like? And maybe they were in a toxic space before, but now they actually feel heard, or maybe they just didn't even feel like, they just felt like a number, and now they actually feel part of something, and they're able to share that and help move through some of those feelings that they've just been carrying. That's a great question.
I think too, beyond our collective meetings and beyond meeting in the parking lot or having our communication circle, just having social gatherings also helps with that. Like during the winter break, we had a women's circle, and that's just set up for that. I mean, we're doing yoga, we're like dancing to music. I'm doing a sound bath, we're just opening up like what is coming up for you, and people just, they're like ready to just share what's been going on for them, because not only do they feel safe, but they've been, that whole kind of environment is kind of set up to have those things come forward, and doing things like that, having events like that where it's kind of like a nurturing and healing time for people. So important.
Yeah, my wife, she got back. She wasn't able to make this last one, but she was at one before. And she says, I was like, how was the event? How did it go? And she's like, oh, it was great. We did yoga. I cried. I was like, what kind of yoga are you doing?
At one point, at the event he's talking about, it was just like this song came on, and I don't know, it was like the culmination of everything that we'd been doing or what, but like every single person in the circle was sobbing, and we didn't even know where it was coming from. It was just like our communal grief being expressed together, and that was amazing. That we could do that together. Some of us, like, we hadn't even met, but we're all from this community, and we were all invited, and we were there crying with each other.
Right. Yeah. What I'm hearing is like, there's this really intentionally designed experience, like an intentionally designed gathering. The intention is there. The space is there. People know that there is safety in being able to feel and express whatever's coming up. And it's held really well, right? Where like people know, like, come here, like this is intentional. I'm not just going to have like nachos and watch the game.
Right. Well, some of the dads did talk about maybe doing something like that.
Right, is valid. Like that's an okay experience. But it's like when I'm really working with grief, like maybe nachos in the game isn't the way. Maybe it's a barbecue and a bonfire, right? And or whatever it needs to look like, but there's intention there. And it's like what I'm also hearing is like in a meeting where we are trying to accomplish something, there's space to acknowledge what's being felt. And maybe also an opportunity to say, like, this seems like it deserves space outside of this setting to be held and honored.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, because we only have a limited time in those meetings. If something does come up like that, then we do acknowledge it. We're like, let's continue this conversation. This is something that we want to continue and take time with, and make sure that we've heard everything.
Which is a really powerful gift to give people.
And then also like figure out if there is to be some kind of resolution, let's help figure it out together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to pivot this just a little bit, if that's all right, to like speaking to the students.
Yeah.
Because like my son's class, they're this very tight-knit group, and they're each going through all the different things that they're going through. And there's some of the classmates have like lost family members who have lost, but they've been together in this what are the fancy words? Anthroposophy, whatever.
Anthroposophy.
The way they teach at the school and such. And the things that they teach is a lot of like emotional awareness and such, and like honoring that for each other. And so when one needs a little bit of space, they're able to give it without it meaning anything, but then to also be there for them, and just say, hey, if you want to talk or whatever, I'm here for you. And hearing that, I feel like there needs to be more of that, especially in this day and age with what's going on the country level, the world level, all the different things that are happening. It's hopeful is the word that comes to mind. Like the feeling that I get that there's places that are teaching and helping these kids grow into the people who actually have that emotional intelligence, who have that ability. And so I would speak, I wanted to kind of shift it towards like the students and such, to say, I feel like they are being given tools that even I look back to when I was going to school and their age, and I'm like, no, it was, if you have an emotion, you stuff it way down and don't show anybody.
Right. Yeah.
So it's great now.
Yeah, it's a huge shift, right? where we can not just help adults learn that it's okay, but also to raise a generation of kids that have that kind of emotional awareness and capacity for holding and being with and acknowledging what's present in themselves and each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really beautiful thing.
And I think, our kids see us. They see us in our meetings. Oftentimes they're here in the garden or at my house. And the kids are around. I mean, they see how we meet. They see how we take turns. They see how we hold space for each other. And it's kind of like they're absorbing all of that.
Yeah.
They're absorbing all of those ways of being and interacting. And how do we speak to people? How do we hold space for people? They don't call it that, but they're observing something, and they're observing how do you work in the world as a human being? And does that seem like a fit with me? But they see all these adults having these interactions, which I think are good interactions and supportive and nurturing, and they're just taking all that in.
Yeah. Kids are always watching. They're always learning. They're always absorbing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny the other day. As we said, we've had these new classrooms come in, and I guess a decision was made, and then was shared with the class. And when my daughter learned about it, she was like, "Did they discuss that in the collective?" She's like, I don't think that, she knew already. She's like, that something went wrong, because I don't think that was the right way that's supposed to be going. If I'm just hearing about it now, how is that possible? She's like, I don't think they discussed that. Yeah, so she knew. She knew. And yeah, not that I had told her anything, but she was just around, and she knew something was not quite right, because she had been there a little bit longer than, this new class coming in.
I think it's really powerful too to have a child be part of the community too. It's not that the adults are the community and we're just supporting the kids. It's that the children themselves are part of the community itself and contributing members, where they're saying, wait, I'm seeing something and it feels off, and I get to speak to that, and I get to contribute my own experience. And now let's see where that goes, rather than just, I show up, someone tells me what I need to know, I go home, and that's it. It's a very active experience.
Right. Yeah. And I think even in our class right now with their end of the year trip, they've had that same experience where maybe we're not doing the trip that we had thought at the beginning of the year, but then now they're active participants in what the trip might be.
Yeah. And with the fundraising for the trip, putting together the different events, we can do this, here's how it can go. They just take on so much, and they want to be a part of, well, how can we? And they just jump in every opportunity they get. And you see a difference when decisions are being made and they don't feel included, and it's when they speak out and they're just like, wait a second, where was I for this conversation?
Right.
Which is great.
It is great, right? There's a degree of maturity and connection that's able to be there that isn't typical in a lot of different environments and settings. Yeah.
I was going to say, with the whole grief thing, I think also having humor and having lightness, I think, is also one way that we help with it. I mean, Jon telling all his jokes, and
and they're dad jokes.
Yeah.
Which means they're high class.
Yeah. But having space for the person, but also saying, hey, we can also, let it go and not be so heavy. We can infuse some lightness, and I don't know. That's just what I think.
Yeah.
I think humor is really an important piece.
Yeah.
I guess one of the ways I think about it is there's a real magic to holding space for people. And when you look at kind of the archetypal magician. One of his functions is that he's a trickster. And so being able to laugh, especially in the face of really big feelings, like big grief, can be very healing and holing. Help us to reconnect to humor and joy. It's a really beautiful experience to have. Yeah. Okay, I have a question.
Okay, ready?
Okay, so I took some of the core values from SOQ's website. I want to ask you about them.
I'm out.
Okay. Art and beauty are essential. Beauty, story, nature, and ritual are not extras. They are essential elements of learning. I'm curious. I'm pretty familiar with what that looks like inside the classroom, like from the Waldorf model. I'm curious how you see this playing out outside the classroom.
Festivals. Oh. So I would say this community in particular, getting with the parents and all of that, there's definitely an appreciation for art, beauty, nature. We try to have our meetings like in the garden if we can. Over at Orlene sometimes, like if she's got this beautiful setup over there and we've, walk outside, go check out her trees, all this stuff like that. But then she's also, what was it? The
Singing bowls, the sound bowls. Yeah.
The sound bowls and things like that. Where
at our last meeting, I had a whole row of sound bowls along the long table.
And it's fun. Like the idea of like showing up and being someone who's like, okay, I'm going to make a noise. And things like that, where I'm comfortable enough that I could do that. And whereas if I was just going to someone's house or something, I'd be like, hey, would it be inappropriate for me to, to me, there's the sound, there's the experience. When we start our meetings, we typically we'll start with like a verse, and it's like being attuned to it. Sometimes it's done in German, which is very cool because I don't speak German. So it's for me, I just sit and I listen for what's the sense of the message. Having no clue what it's actually like. I do have a clue because she'll say it in English and then German sometimes. But like listening for that. And I feel like a lot of the community bring that kind of intentionality. They bring that kind of presence. They show up and they notice the different aspects. And so I would say for me, that's where I feel like the community itself is very attuned to the nature, the beauty, the arts. When we're doing a festival and there's decorating or things, having these parents, well, let's do it just this way because that's going to look so beautiful, or let's present this and set this up that way. And so I feel like that's part of the example we get to be for these students, as you mentioned, because in the classroom, it's, art, and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right about the festivals and the different gatherings that we have as a way that the community can express itself in that way. I can think of a couple. Like we had the spiral walk at our house, at my house in my backyard. But it was just set up so beautifully. Even like, okay, so the spiral walk is a spiral of like evergreen branches, and taking the time to set that up, it feels very ritualistic, and just going through and setting it up. And then during the event, we had one of our seniors, our high school seniors, playing the music for it, and it was so beautiful. It was just like this classical music that she had chosen for the event. And then later on, because what happens is that people will walk through the spiral with a candle unlit. And then when they get to the center, they receive their light from an angel that's sitting there. And then with their lit candle, with their light now shining, they pass back through the spiral and place it somewhere. And when the student who was playing the music, then it was her turn to be the angel, I had my sound bowl set up and I was going to play them. But then my children started playing them, and that was amazing. They just started however they felt inspired to do these sound bowls. And it's just like in every moment there's art, in every moment there's beauty, like in unexpected ways, and these rituals, there's rituals in the way that we do things like the spiral walk or Martin Miss when we're holding our lanterns or our candles and walking through the night. But I think within those rituals, then our students, our families, like they kind of find their own way about the ritual, their own version. And I think that's also like what was coming up that night at the spiral walk. Everyone had a chance to walk the spiral walk, which is different than how it's done at some other places where just students walk it. So anyone could come and walk the spiral. And it's just really powerful. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah. I guess I'm curious, what impact have you seen these like festivals and rituals have just on the group as a whole?
Well, I think it's a way of coming together. Like I'm thinking of our Michaelmas at the beginning of the year. We had it here in the garden, which was beautiful. We have a sister school that has a third grade, and they created the dragon, and they participated as the dragon in the ceremony. And so it not just brought together our classes, with each class having something that they had been working on to include and prepare, but having partners, having collaborations. So we had the sister school join us. We have the garden space available to us, and the garden collaborations that we've been doing. And I think, I don't know, that's a value to creating these connections that we were talking about.
Yeah, I'd say it kind of solidifies the community even more so when we have these different festivals and events, by having the parents get to interact, and not just parents, actually, the community members, the Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, I love that one. Yeah.
It was beautiful. Everyone who wanted to brought, something, and we created this beautiful like scene.
The altar.
Altar. And everyone was able to just contribute how they could. And the conversations that were had were at a deeper level than just like the surface. Hey, how's your kid doing? Okay, great. And have a great day and stuff. But it was actually like connecting to each other of, what's that represent, or who's that, for, and then sharing, this was my, brother who, passed away, and filling in and like personal information that has us more and more connected. And then the food and the dance. We had somebody from the community. I don't think she has a student here or anything.
No.
She just from the overall community come and do authentic like dance with music and all of that, and then incorporating and bringing like more and more of us into the dance. And
we had also invited, because this garden is separate. This garden is Clark Park Community Garden, and the garden people came. Yeah. So that was really wonderful to make the space open. I mean, it's their space, but make it open to inviting them in, inviting the neighborhood in. We had people from the neighborhood just coming in. Yeah.
Yep. And with the Christmas, the Wonderland, or the
Arctic Garden.
Arctic Garden in Arizona.
Yeah.
we had so many people from the neighborhood, the community around, coming in and just being a part of it. And that's what it's about, is building and growing that community and having people feel like it's not just a place to drop your kids off, but it's actually a group. Like, I've connected with more parents in my time here than ever before. I was the guy who was like, yeah, you just drop your kid off at school and then pick them back up and you find out how did it go and stuff. And schools aren't really something that you participate in so much, and have shifted to, wow, this is what it can be, and I think it makes my wife jealous at times because I have a little bit more flexibility. So I get to be around these parents a little bit more than she does. But then when she is with them, it's just like they picked up from the last time they saw each other. and they're just best friends, like it's that connection doesn't just happen. It's these events that help build and grow that.
Yeah, it's really powerful.
And I think it's not just like you were saying, like I think being the class rep, I think I was the class rep before we came here for like 3 years. And in that 3 years, I don't think I knew everyone. I knew all the parents because that was my job, but we didn't have these connections. We didn't have these deep connections. And when we came here, it was like, because of what we were creating, we had to create those connections, or it just was a part of like how we needed to function. And I just know people now. I know people, and we spend time together. We want to get to know each other, and it just feels like family. Yeah.
It really speaks to the power that ritual can have, right? In bringing people together and like fostering a deeper connection beyond just the, like, we see each other in the parking lot and wave. Oh, hey, yeah, whose kid are you again? Yeah. To have that deeper experience where there's meaningful connection that people want to be part of, enables us to go below the surface.
And I think with anthroposophy, because, they have these different times of the year that they honor, it's all part of and connected to everyone's own spiritual journey, and how each person's spiritual journey affects each other's and affects the spiritual journey of the school, and these festivals kind of hold a space, not just to celebrate these times of the year, but hold a space for a lot of inward reflection and contemplation.
One of the values from SOQ's website was transformation and community. Community life guided by rhythm, mutual respect, and inner development creates the fertile ground for true transformation. And I guess I'm curious, as you consider where you were at the beginning of the SOQ journey to now, how do you feel that you have changed and become different, like through the SOQ experience?
Do you want me to go? I feel like I go first. So Wendy, I was like, I should wait. It's interesting because transformation, it almost lends to like a completion. Right? Transformation has a beginning and then an end. And part of me is like, do I disagree with this? Because we're ever evolving. And so it's as if we're actually in the process of the transformation, and just allowing and knowing where we are, and that we are in fact actually still in that, because we're not done. We're not finished. We started with something that was very, let's just make sure these kids have this amazing experience, and these trips and the field trips and all the different activities and the stuff that we're like, whoa, school can be like this for these students. And then as a community, wow, we can actually have a school that has all these people staying so connected to each other and has all these opportunities to grow and develop yourself as an individual as well through this journey, as parents, as guides, as mentors, all of these things, which in a traditional model, I'm dropping my kid off, period. And so to grow and evolve and develop throughout that, and then now, here we are in this year, and it's continued on. And even from the beginning of the year to now, so much keeps evolving and shifting and moving that it's like, wow, where's this going to go? Where's this going to end up? And I feel that more people have gotten tuned into the vision. The community has grown. And so I feel in some ways like it becomes more cohesive. And in other ways, we've noticed where it's like, okay, these aspects are on their journey and things like that. And these parents over here and all of that. So everyone's kind of on their journey. And so that's where I was like, wow, transformation, it's not done. And so for me personally, I feel as if we're still, from the beginning to now, we're still at that, chrysalis. We're still at the, we're not even wings flapping yet. Like where this could be, we're in that gooey, formy stage of like, wow, what's happening here? What's gonna do? Oh, we didn't think that we needed to do that. Okay, let's check on this. And what about this activity for these guys? And the highs and the lows of all of that, but it's all from that creation space of like exploding growth, activity, energy, and the gooiness. So
I agree with John that it's an ever evolving transformation. Because as soon as we get to one completion, then there's more transformation that's happening, you know? And I think we've always known that about SOQ, that we kind of said from the beginning, if we're not evolving or changing, then maybe something's wrong, you know, we're stagnant. And I love transformation. I love the gooiness, and I feel like that's the living, you know, and that's, we're helping each other get through the life, not just get through, but thrive, you know, if we can. And part of that thriving is even when there are challenges, even when there are difficult times, that we like dive full in, you know, like fully present in those, even in those uncomfortable times. Because otherwise you're just standing on the sidelines, you know. And doesn't everyone want to be the main character of their life?
Sure.
Not the supporting role in their own life.
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
I feel like I could use a break. I would like to be the supporting role.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just the John on the side.
Yeah.
Watches the stuff happen so I can just breathe for a bit.
Definitely. Yeah,
But
definitely.
I'm going to speak a little bit more to the transformation, because you reminded me of like when SOQ first started, right? Let's say it's summertime. School hasn't actually, it's an idea. It's a concept. And the transformation we went through from that summer and the meetings, these ladies were meeting so often, like figuring out details, what, you know, all those aspects to students in a classroom, that the transformation of like, wow, we have SOQ now. We have School of Quintessence. This class, they're enjoying it. They're connected. They're doing their curriculum. They're doing these amazing field trips, things like that. Like the transformation just there was amazing. And it's almost like, okay, done. This is pretty solid. Oh, a teacher wants to come on board. And then the next evolution, the next transformation of like, well, how do we navigate that? How do we go through that? And it's just been those transformations over and over. And so even as parents, the group of parents who have been involved has shifted and changed. And there's like still core people that were, some were there at the very beginning. Some have moved out of state. Some have, you know, different things have happened, but then other people have stepped in. And then just the evolution and transformation of that and who we get to be in those roles. And so it definitely is something that is very core to the SOQ community, in that, you know, the students are easy. You can look to the students and be like, wow, like the transformation you've seen in them. But even some of the parents, it's like, wow, I don't know if that dad would ever really, oh my gosh, he's there for everything type of thing, you know, and who he gets to be for himself. And this mom over here who's like, maybe I'm not doing enough. And by the end of the first quarter or however, then she's like, wow, my contribution's perfect for what I'm doing here. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the idea that, you know, we're in this transformation, we're in this process, is also good to keep in mind that we don't need to get attached to anything. We don't need to get attached to people, to ways of doing, ways of being, because, I mean, that's the nature of humans, right? We're always changing, always evolving, and to hold too tightly onto one type of structure or one person, like, doesn't allow for that flow and that transformation. And so I think also giving space and having those breaths to release, versus like hold on like with tight grips to whatever we think needs to happen. Like, no, like I don't want to say it's not under our control, but it isn't. Like, it's like the creation of SOQ, the evolution of SOQ is like its own entity, its own thing, and we're all evolving together.
Yeah, it's really powerful. Gives me like the visual of like the snake shedding its skin,
Yeah.
right? Like as the snake grows, like as the individual grows, like the old skin doesn't fit anymore. Like the new growth needs space to be and to breathe and be present in the world. Well, I'm grateful to both of you being willing to sit down in the garden and just talk together today and explore. I would love to give you an opportunity to just kind of plug how people can connect to SOQ and find you in person or on the interwebs.
Well, we're on the internet. We have a beautiful website that found through our community, like people to work on it. And it's at soqcommunity.org. Through the website, you can learn more about SOQ. You can fill out interested in contact form. And that gets you to us to be able to reach out to you. I think there's a link to an interest form. Yeah, there is. On the enrollment page, there's a link to an interest form if you're interested in enrolling. And should I give our phone number? Yeah, our phone number. Our phone number is 480-744-8711.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much to both of you for being here. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
This is fantastic.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of The Fertile Dark. We hope that this episode resonated with you and that you feel inspired with new ways to deepen your connection with others in your community. And we'd love to hear ways that you integrate rituals into your gatherings and how they help you feel a deeper connection to others and permission to be together authentically in community. If something in this episode resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who would benefit from the conversation, as well as leaving us a review wherever you listen. And as always, keep delving deep and embracing the journey.